everyone, and welcome back to the RA Yogi. I'm Julia, your yoga instructor for arthritis, living with arthritis. Today you are going to learn a foundational yoga pose, plank pose, and some helpful variations to help build confidence and strength for someone experiencing arthritis pain. I often have to change up my plank depending on the day, because of how my joints are feeling or maybe my energy level, from stiff hands and wrists to low back pain or swollen knees. I will show you a few modifications to solve how to plank pose and enjoy the benefits while respecting and honoring your body. I'll explain and demonstrate different variations of plank, from the classical option all the way to a standing variation with the use of a wall to make it more accessible. So what you'll need for today's practice, if you're coming down to the floor, is a yoga mat, perhaps a folded blanket for added support and cushioning under the knees. You'll need a yoga wedge if you have sensitive wrists. You can bring a foam knee pad if you have one, a sturdy chair if you want to try doing plank on a chair, and a free wall if you're not planning on coming down to the floor today, and I'll teach you how to take plank on the wall. So gather the props that you need for today's practice and we'll get started. We are going to break down classical plank pose step by step, and then we'll also go through different variations and how to flow into plank in a yoga class. Please choose whichever plank variation feels best for you in your body right now. If you're coming down to the floor today, we'll begin in tabletop position. So take your time to stretch out the legs. Maybe shake out the legs a little bit, and then we'll find our way onto a supportive prop, like a folded blanket, towel, or foam knee pad. And we'll send the hands underneath the shoulders and the hips right over the knees to come into tabletop position. And as I said before, if this doesn't feel good for the hands, we'll definitely be demonstrating a variation without the hands in a minute. So I'm taking you step by step through classical plank pose. So the first thing we want to do is spread the fingers wide and ground through the whole hand, distributing weight through the whole hand to relieve some pressure off of the wrist. Press away from the earth, pressing away from your yoga mat. Pull the belly in and up on your exhale. So breathe in. Send the shoulders down the back and exhale, pull belly to spine, engaging the lower abdominals. And on your next inhale, you're going to step one foot back at a time, coming to the toes, engaging the core, pressing away from the earth. And right now, we're actually engaging the back body and the front body. And we're pulling the belly in and up, keeping a nice long spine. And if this is too intense, you can come down to your knees, making sure that your hands are underneath the shoulders and you're not dipping low with the spine. You're engaging the abs. We're not coming all the way up or we won't feel it in the core. We're allowing ourselves to find that sweet spot where we feel no pain in the lower back because our abdominals are engaged. And continue to breathe. So from plank pose, you'll usually see in a yoga class that will come into what is called chaturanga or into cobra. So if it feels good here, you can slowly send the elbows close to the body and lower your chest all the way down to the earth and rest the forehead. Keeping the elbows nice and close to the body, we can take a baby cobra. Inhale the chest off the earth. Sending the shoulders down the back, squeeze the shoulder blades slightly together. And then exhale to come back down. You can use your hands to press away from the earth and come into a mini child's pose if that's available to you, with your big toes to touch, releasing the forehead down to the earth. Spreading the fingers wide on your mat. Taking this counter pose to just stretch the spine, release the lower back from any tension. I'm feeling a nice stretch in the chest. And we can come back to our plank position. And exhale. You can bend the knees and come into downward facing dog, inverted V. And slowly you can pedal out the feet. This is another counter pose you can take. So after taking plank, you can take downward facing dog. You can take child's pose like we just did. And then you can slowly float the knees back down to your yoga mat. And we'll come into another variation of plank, using our forearms. So if it hurts to bring your forearms down to your yoga mat, then you can use an extra pad underneath your forearms, like a folded blanket, a towel, something that can provide extra cushioning underneath your arms and your elbows. You can have the hands flat if that's more comfortable than interlacing the fingers. And really ground into your forearms. And it's the same process of coming into plank on the hands. The only variation is changing it to the forearms, keeping the elbows close to the body so they don't splay out to the sides. You can step 1 foot back at a time, breathing in, and then exhale, breathe out, pull belly to spine. Your elbows are underneath your shoulders. You're really focusing on creating length in the body and engaging your belly to spine. If this is too intense, you can come down to the knees and continue that same variation on your forearms. Pressing away from the earth with your forearms. And when you're ready, you can send your knees back to your folded blanket, big toes together, and allow yourself to come into child's pose, resting the arms out in front of you, resting your forehead down on your yoga mat for a few mindful breaths. And then once you're done taking child's pose, taking our time, you can press into the hands and come back up into tabletop if that's available to you. So it's really important that you listen to your body and take whichever variation is best for you. If those felt a little bit too intense, we can take the next 2 modifications. Again, you have the option to use a yoga wedge like this and place it underneath your yoga mat to remove some of the flexion in the wrist. So I just lift my yoga mat and slide it with the thicker piece towards me. So that way it is removing some of the flexion in the wrist, just to give you that option to see what it feels like if you do have sensitive wrists. Maybe you want to try to plank on a yoga wedge instead. So really activating the whole body, engaging belly to spine. And when you're ready, come back down to your yoga mat. Take a counter pose, whether it's downward facing dog or child's pose. And then when you're ready, take your time to come to standing. We'll remove our props. We'll find tabletop on our chair this time, engaging belly to spine again. We're really taking the same steps that we would take on the ground. So make sure that your chair is steady and spread the fingers wide. Breathe in. And exhale, pull belly to spine. Inhale. And exhale. Send the shoulders down the back. And when you're ready, inhale to step one leg back at a time. And notice what that feels like on the hands and wrists. And if it feels good, you can stay here. So instead of being on the floor, we're taking this from a standing position. We don't want to see our lower back scoop down. Really lift through the back body, engaging belly to spine and the full back of the body. Keeping the head in line with the spine instead of gazing towards me. You're going to keep your head in line with your spine and take a few mindful breaths. And when you're ready, you can slowly walk forward towards the top of your chair, and you can use the chair for support to stand up. You have the option to come to your forearms as well on the seat of your chair and to step one leg back at a time. You also have the option to set a cushion down so you can place your knees down on your yoga mat while you're on your forearms on the chair. You also have a final option, standing with the use of a wall. So I have a clear wall in front of me. I have this decorative piece, but it's okay. So I want my hands to be right underneath my shoulders, and I'm going to extend my arms out in front of me and come to the toes. Engage belly to spine. So my hands should be right in front of my shoulders and my elbows are slightly tucked in towards the body. And I'm going to engage my belly to spine and breathe in plank pose on the wall. So you're gaining some strength in the toes, in the feet. You're engaging your belly and your core. You're gaining some strength in the arms. If you want to add a little push-up to gain some upper body strength, keep the elbows close instead of splaying them out to the sides. If you're too far away from the wall, you can come closer. Inhale, sending the chest towards the wall. And exhale. Only going as low as it feels good on the joints. Keeping your head in line with the spine. That's just to increase the difficulty, but you can also stay here and pull the belly in to the spine, engaging your core with every exhale. And when you're ready to come out of the pose, slowly press away from the wall. I hope that you enjoyed learning how to plank pose today and enjoyed some of those variations. Plank pose is great because we gain strength in the front of the body and the back of the body at the same time, aiming towards better posture, better spinal support, and it's great for the core and the abs. If you're interested in learning more accessible yoga poses for arthritis, I'll link the playlist above. Subscribe to the RA Yogi so you don't miss a thing. Thank you so much for joining. Namaste.